The Gospel of Nicodemus, also known as the Acts of Pilate, is an ancient apocryphal text that provides a unique and profound perspective on the passion, crucifixion, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Attributed to Nicodemus, a Pharisee and secret follower of Christ, this gospel offers valuable insights into the trials of Jesus before Pontius Pilate, his death on the cross, and even his descent into hell. Though not part of the canonical New Testament, this text has intrigued scholars and believers for centuries. Its vivid narrative and deep spiritual themes continue to resonate today, offering timeless reflections on faith, justice, and redemption. The Gospel of Nicodemus takes us beyond the familiar gospel accounts, inviting readers to explore moments of Christ's journey that provide fresh perspectives on his suffering, sacrifice, and ultimate victory over death. This ancient text not only highlights the historical and spiritual significance of these events, but also challenges us to reflect on our own responses to the truth of Christ's message. As we delve into its key chapters and themes, we find ourselves drawn into a narrative that is both ancient and deeply relevant for modern readers. While this gospel may not be part of the official biblical canon, its value lies in the way it enriches our understanding of the early Christian community's beliefs and struggles. Nicodemus's own journey, torn between faith and societal pressures, mirrors the spiritual struggles many face today. His quiet defense of Jesus during his trial and the subsequent unfolding of events invite us to consider how we might confront similar moral and spiritual challenges in our lives. This text, though written centuries ago, continues to speak to those seeking deeper meaning in their faith journey. As we explore the Gospel of Nicodemus in greater depth, we invite you to join us in reflecting on these profound themes. If you're interested in discovering more about ancient Christian texts, the history of early Christianity, and the deeper spiritual insights they offer, be sure to subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you'll stay connected with future discussions and explorations that delve into faith, history, and the enduring relevance of these ancient writings for today's world. Together, we can continue to uncover the rich spiritual heritage that shapes our understanding of faith. Nicodemus, a respected Pharisee, stood as a complex figure amidst the political and religious dynamics of his time. His introduction in this account draws on his appearance in the Gospel of John, where he is portrayed as a man torn between faith and societal norms. His journey begins with a secret meeting with Jesus under the cover of night, seeking understanding about the mysteries of life, salvation, and the kingdom of God. Nicodemus represents not only the learned elite, but also those who quietly seek truth, often from the shadows, hesitant to fully commit to what they inwardly sense to be true. During the trial of Jesus, Nicodemus found himself in a difficult position. A man of the law, he understood the weight of tradition and the strict adherence required by his fellow Pharisees. Yet, in Jesus, he saw something that went beyond the letter of the law, something divine and profound, even if he couldn't fully comprehend it. As the trial unfolded, he recognized the dangerous trajectory of the accusations against Jesus. The charges leveled were not only unfounded, but also driven by fear, envy, and political expediency. It was not justice that drove the proceedings, but a deep-seated desire to eliminate a threat to the existing power structures. Nicodemus, though cautious and concerned for his own status and reputation, could not remain silent. In a tense moment, as the accusations mounted and the fervor of the crowd grew, he raised his voice. He reminded the council of their own laws emphasizing that no man should be condemned without a fair hearing. His intervention was not overtly in defense of Jesus' divinity, but it was a defense of justice, a call to abide by the very principles they claimed to uphold. Nicodemus's actions reflected the internal conflict many face when they encounter truth that demands a response, yet fear the consequences of standing for it. Though he spoke up, his defense was cautious, tempered by the very societal pressures he was struggling against. He did not declare Jesus as the Messiah, nor did he denounce the false accusations directly. Instead, he subtly urged the leaders to consider their actions more carefully. In doing so, Nicodemus illustrated the inner tension of a man drawn toward faith, but held back by the fear of losing his place within a rigid and unforgiving society. His defense of Jesus was a pivotal moment, showing that even those in positions of power and influence can be moved by truth, yet still hesitate to embrace it fully. The trial of Jesus before Pontius Pilate revealed the deeper complexities of political power and moral conflict. Pilate, the Roman governor, was no stranger to managing the tensions between the occupying Roman forces and the Jewish population. His rule was marked by pragmatic decisions aimed at maintaining peace and order, often at the cost of justice. However, Jesus' trial posed a unique challenge for Pilate, one that brought him face to face with his own conscience. Pilate's initial reluctance to condemn Jesus stemmed from a genuine uncertainty about the charges brought before him. He could see through the political motivations of the religious leaders, recognizing that they sought to remove Jesus not because of any real crime, but because he threatened their authority and influence. Pilate questioned Jesus directly, probing into the accusations, but found no fault in him. The more he engaged with Jesus, the more perplexed he became. Here was a man who spoke not as a criminal or revolutionary, but as someone who embodied a higher truth, a truth that transcended political allegiances and earthly kingdoms. Adding to Pilate's internal struggle was the intervention of his wife, Procla. She had experienced a troubling dream about Jesus and sent word to her husband, urging him to have nothing to do with this innocent man. Dreams in the ancient world were often regarded as divine messages, and this only deepened Pilate's unease. He found himself caught between his wife's warning, his own instincts about Jesus' innocence, and the increasing pressure from the Jewish leaders and the crowd demanding crucifixion. Pilate's ultimate decision to hand Jesus over for crucifixion, despite his misgivings, revealed the powerful force of political expediency. He was not a man without a conscience, but he allowed his fear of an uprising and the potential consequences for his own position to override his sense of justice. Pilate washed his hands of the matter, symbolically distancing himself from the act. Yet the stain of injustice could not be so easily removed. His indecision and moral weakness led to one of the greatest miscarriages of justice in history. Pilate's story serves as a sobering reminder of how the fear of losing power or facing consequences can cause even the most powerful individuals to compromise on what they know to be right. The testimonies of those who had witnessed Jesus' miracles provide a striking contrast to the hardened hearts of the religious leaders. In this section, the narrative shifts focus to individuals whose lives were transformed by Jesus' healing power. These testimonies are powerful and compelling, offered by people who had experienced the divine in the most personal and tangible ways. One such testimony came from a man born blind, who recounted how Jesus had restored his sight. His words were not just about the physical healing, but about the deeper spiritual awakening that came with it. He had been blind in more ways than one, and through Jesus, both his physical and spiritual eyes had been opened. Others testified to similar miracles, each recounting how Jesus had changed their lives in ways that defied natural explanation. The deaf had been made to hear, the lame had walked, and the dead had been raised. These were not isolated incidents, but part of a larger tapestry of Jesus' ministry, a ministry that consistently demonstrated compassion, power, and authority over the natural world. Yet, despite the overwhelming evidence presented by these witnesses, their testimonies were dismissed by the religious authorities. Pride, fear, and the desire to maintain control blinded the leaders to the truth standing before them. The rejection of these testimonies highlighted a deeper resistance to change. The miracles were undeniable, yet they conflicted with the leaders' preconceived notions of what the Messiah should be and how he should act. Jesus did not fit their expectations, and rather than reconsider their own understanding, they chose to reject him. This chapter underscores the tragic reality that even when faced with irrefutable evidence of the divine, human hearts can remain closed, clinging to power, tradition, and pride instead of embracing the truth. The account of Jesus' crucifixion is rendered with a focus on its cosmic and spiritual significance. The physical act of crucifixion, though brutal and harrowing, is portrayed as part of a much larger divine plan for the redemption of humanity. As Jesus was nailed to the cross, the sky darkened and an eerie stillness settled over the land. These cosmic disturbances were not just natural phenomena, but symbolic representations of the earth itself reacting to the death of its creator. The darkening of the sky signified the weight of sin being borne by Jesus, and the tearing of the temple veil at the moment of his death symbolized the removal of the barrier between God and humanity. The narrative emphasizes that Jesus' crucifixion was not merely an execution, but a sacrificial act with profound spiritual implications. His death was the fulfillment of ancient prophecies, the ultimate act of love and redemption. In his suffering, he took upon himself the sins of the world, offering humanity a path to reconciliation with God. The chapter invites readers to contemplate the cosmic and personal significance of Jesus' sacrifice, recognizing that it was not only a historical event, but a moment of transformative power that continues to resonate throughout time. In the immediate aftermath of his death, the world seemed to tremble. The ground shook, and the veil of the temple was torn from top to bottom. This tearing of the veil was especially significant, as it symbolized the end of the separation between God and man. No longer would humanity need a mediator to approach the divine. Through Jesus' death, direct access to God had been made possible. This chapter ends with a call to reflect on the magnitude of what had occurred on that cross. The breaking of sin's power, the opening of the gates of heaven, and the beginning of a new covenant between God and humanity. Following the crucifixion, Jesus' descent into hell, known as the Harrowing of Hell, stands as one of the most profound and mysterious moments in Christian theology. This event, while not described in the canonical Gospels, plays a central role in the Gospel of Nicodemus, capturing the breadth of Christ's victory over sin and death. In this chapter, the narrative takes the reader beyond the physical world into the spiritual realm where the dead await their fate. Hell, as depicted in early Christian thought, was not merely a place of eternal punishment, but a realm where the righteous who had lived before the time of Christ were held in waiting. These souls, unable to attain full salvation due to the absence of Christ's redemptive work, were confined to a shadowy existence. Among them were figures such as Adam and Eve, the patriarchs, and prophets who had lived in faith, yet had not experienced the fulfillment of God's promise of salvation. When Jesus died, he descended into this realm, not as a victim, but as a conqueror. His arrival was marked by an extraordinary light, a divine radiance that pierced the darkness of hell. The gates of hell, long thought to be impenetrable, crumbled before him. Satan, the ruler of this domain, trembled at Christ's approach, for this was no ordinary man entering the underworld. This was the Son of God, who had taken on the sins of the world and now came to claim victory over death itself. As Jesus entered, the souls of the righteous recognized him. They had long awaited this moment, the fulfillment of prophecies they had spoken of while on earth. Their chains were broken, and they were lifted from the depths of hell. Jesus led them out of captivity, symbolizing his total victory over sin, death, and the powers of evil. This was not only a moment of triumph for the souls in hell, but for all humanity, for in freeing them, Jesus demonstrated that his sacrifice on the cross was sufficient to redeem not just the living, but all who had ever lived. This chapter, with its vivid portrayal of Christ's descent, conveys a powerful message about the extent of his redemptive work. His victory was not limited to his earthly ministry. It extended beyond the grave, reaching into the very heart of death itself. The harrowing of hell symbolizes the liberation of humanity from the bonds of sin and death, offering hope that no soul, however lost it may seem, is beyond the reach of God's salvation. The resurrection of Jesus forms the cornerstone of the Christian faith, and the Gospel of Nicodemus emphasizes the miraculous and awe-inspiring nature of this event. After his descent into hell and triumphant return, Jesus' body, which had been laid to rest in the tomb, was miraculously restored to life. The stone that had sealed the tomb was rolled away, not by human hands, but by divine power. The resurrection was not a mere return to physical life, but a complete transformation. Jesus arose in a glorified state, victorious over death and untouched by the decay that had claimed so many before him. Central to this account is the figure of Joseph of Arimathea, a wealthy and devout man who had taken great personal risk to ask for Jesus' body after his crucifixion. Having ensured that Jesus was given a proper burial, Joseph himself became a target of those who sought to suppress the growing belief in Jesus as the Messiah. According to the Gospel of Nicodemus, Joseph was imprisoned by the religious authorities for his role in Jesus' burial. But a miracle occurred. He was freed from his prison cell, a testament to God's justice and the divine approval of his righteous actions. Joseph's release from prison served as a sign that those who act in faith, even in the face of persecution, will be vindicated. His faith in Jesus, despite the political and social risks, was rewarded not only with his own freedom, but with the assurance that Jesus had indeed risen, just as he had promised. Joseph's story reminds readers that standing for truth and righteousness often comes with great personal cost, but God's justice prevails in the end. The resurrection, as described in this gospel, is not only a historical event, but also a moment of cosmic significance. Jesus' victory over death represents the fulfillment of his mission on earth, to redeem humanity and restore the relationship between God and man. His rising from the dead confirms his divine identity and the truth of his teachings. It affirms that death is not the end for those who believe, but rather a passage to eternal life. The resurrection gives hope to all believers that just as Jesus was raised, so too will they be raised on the last day, freed from the power of sin and death. Following the resurrection, the Gospel of Nicodemus recounts the various testimonies of those who encountered the risen Christ, further affirming the reality of his victory over death. Jesus appeared to his disciples and other followers, not as a ghost or spirit, but in a physical, glorified body. These encounters were marked by a mixture of awe, joy, and disbelief, as those who had mourned his death now stood face to face with the risen Lord. The appearances of Jesus after his resurrection were more than just a confirmation of his return from the dead. They were moments of profound teaching and transformation for his followers. He spoke to them of the kingdom of God, reassuring them of the promises he had made during his earthly ministry. In these post-resurrection encounters, Jesus prepared his disciples for the mission that lay ahead, spreading the message of salvation to the ends of the earth. The culmination of these appearances was Jesus' ascension into heaven. As his disciples gathered, Jesus blessed them and then ascended before their eyes, returning to the Father from whom he had come. The ascension was a powerful symbol of Jesus' divine authority and the completion of his earthly work. He had come to earth, lived among humanity, died for their sins, and now returned to his rightful place in heaven, seated at the right hand of God. This chapter underscores the ongoing impact of the resurrection and ascension, not only for the first witnesses, but for all future generations of believers. The awe and wonder experienced by those who saw the risen Christ are meant to inspire faith in those who hear their testimonies. The message of Jesus' life, death, resurrection, and ascension is not confined to the past, but continues to resonate through the ages, inviting all who hear it to believe and be transformed. The Gospel of Nicodemus concludes by inviting readers to reflect on the timeless relevance of its message. Although this text is not part of the official biblical canon, it offers a vivid and powerful portrayal of key moments in the life and ministry of Jesus. From his trial before Pilate to his descent into hell, resurrection, and ascension, this gospel provides a lens through which to view the cosmic significance of Christ's work of salvation. The message of this gospel is one of moral courage, faith, and the boundless reach of Christ's love. Through the character of Nicodemus, readers are reminded of the internal struggle between fear and faith, and the challenge of standing up for what is right in the face of societal opposition. Nicodemus's journey mirrors the journey of many who are drawn to the truth of Christ, but hesitate to openly declare their faith due to fear of judgment or persecution. Yet, the Gospel of Nicodemus challenges readers to move beyond hesitation, to embrace faith boldly, and to recognize that, like Joseph of Arimathea, those who stand for righteousness will be vindicated. As the narrative draws to a close, it extends a call to action for all who encounter it. Will the reader, like Nicodemus, remain cautious and reserved? Or will they, like Joseph, take a bold stand for their faith, regardless of the cost? The message is clear. The life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ demand a response. It is not enough to observe from the sidelines. The gospel invites everyone to participate in the ongoing story of redemption. The closing message of the Gospel of Nicodemus encourages readers to let the lessons of this ancient text inspire them in their own spiritual journeys. It calls for courageous action in the face of moral dilemmas, perseverance in the search for truth, and a deepened faith in the transformative power of Christ's message. Whether you are a lifelong believer or someone newly exploring the claims of Christianity, this gospel offers a compelling invitation to reflect on the enduring significance of Jesus' life and to respond with conviction and courage to the challenges of your own life. As you continue to reflect on the powerful themes presented in this gospel, we invite you to stay connected with us for further exploration into ancient Christian texts and their relevance today. By subscribing to our channel, you'll have access to more insightful discussions and deep dives into the rich spiritual heritage of Christianity. Join our community as we journey together through history, faith, and personal growth. Let these ancient truths continue to inspire and guide you in your walk of faith.